All right, welcome back to another episode of Cameo Podcast. Having breakfast at Leon John's, another Civic Edition podcast. Last one I have scheduled this week. Sean Harnett had to reschedule, so still figuring that out, as well as maybe a few others. We'll see. It's been a little sprint, but I'm sitting across from Dennis Giesbrecht. I believe I said that correct.
Giesbrecht, but it's been butchered far worse before.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I've had a couple of people correct me, and it's, but you're Dennis.
Yeah, just call me Dennis.
With an N.
With two N's.
Two N's. Yes, two N's. Yes, that's what I mean by.
Yeah.
But there's also Dennis Walsh. So Dennis G, who, if you're listening along, you've probably seen his face come up. He's been pretty good at staying in the spotlight about the needle buyback program, which has been, well, it's pretty controversial, if anything. How did that come about?
Well, it was fun. Caroline and I have been talking about it. That's Caroline King. We've been talking about something like this for well over a year. She brought it up on Kamloops CBC radio last 2 Septembers ago now. So it's not a new idea, and it's really not a new idea in general. Cities and health authorities were doing needle buybacks back in the 80s when the AIDS epidemic started. Back then, they were looking at $1 a needle for in Seattle and some areas.
Big money back then.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's with inflation and American. I can't imagine what that would be nowadays. But the whole thought of the buyback program was to get the dirty needles off the street and hopefully exchange them for clean ones. Now, the exchanging program or getting clean needles in Kamloops is much less of an issue now. The way harm reduction has taken root with interior health, but getting the needles back, the dirty needles back into the system and cleaned up is a bit of an afterthought with the programs that are in place now. We just figured we'd see and go out and see if we could do something with a minimal personal investment, and it worked out quite well.
Yeah, it's someone has explained to me that the numbers coming out of the current harm reduction, official harm reduction strategy is they're getting about 95% of needles that they hand out back, but you've kind of come and destroyed that figure with your buyback program.
Well, their original claim was 99, and how they came up with that number was kind of a way to justify or a way to minimize any negative publicity for their program. But in every city where there's been a needle buyback, that number has been utterly destroyed. In some cases, Interior Health has admitted that the number may not be accurate. Surprise. But in a lot of cases, they're still sticking to that mandate. And we're not here to make Interior Health look bad. We're here to make the cities and the parks and the streets and the riverbank a little safer for everybody. And I think a minimal investment, long term, can have significant impact on this problem.
Yeah, since people are so familiar with your needle buyback program, and that's kind of the image that comes to mind when I think Dennis and Carolyn. What other parts of the platform have not gotten so much attention during your campaign?
Well, there's I'm very pro-business. I think we need to have a very pro-business council and a pro-business image inside Kamloops. To a man and woman, every business I've talked to admits or agrees that the image that Kamloops is portraying is not business friendly. And that'll be a tough ship to turn around because reputations are, it takes a while to destroy a reputation if you've got a good one. You get the benefit of the doubt, and it takes some time to build up a good reputation, even if you put in good policies in place and good plans in place. But we're hopefully in 4 years we can get that ship turned around a little bit and have Kamloops seen as the jewel in BC to invest, and it should be. Our housing prices are. A lot of people complain about housing availability in Kamloops, but our pricing compared to a lot of the province is, significantly more affordable. Mm-hmm. If we can bring some jobs along to get more people that can afford those houses, I think it'd be fantastic.
Yeah, what is your background? Do you come from the business world?
I've owned several businesses, but I've spent most of my adult life in the oil and gas sector. I'm an inspector, asset integrity inspector, so that means that I go out and inspect whether it's pressure vessels or pipelines, there's that big word, or anything that basically contains industrial products. I use ultrasound, magnetic particles, things like that to look for defects and ensure that they're operated within the guidelines and safely.
Yeah. If I was to look at controversial subjects, thank you so much, Mike.
Do you guys want any ketchup?
Ooh, ketchup would be amazing.
That'd be awesome. Thanks.
Ooh, hot sauce too. Yes, please. Such great service here at Leon John's. If I was to think about, the most controversial subjects of the current campaign, right? You haven't shied away with the needle buyback program and admitting that you're from the oil and gas industry, right? Ruffles a couple of feathers as well. If you don't mind me asking, what are your thoughts on the MacArthur Island side of things, right? Where, again, it was all about saving the ecosystem on one side, and the other side is about, promoting outdoor activities here in town.
Well, I'm assuming you're talking about the former golf course and turning that into something. I think I'm a big fan of multi-use facilities. I don't care if it's combining cycling and roadways, or have parks with other things that might attract people to go out there. I think that whether it's disc golf or another soccer field or something that will bring people to the parks. The busier our parks are, the better it is for the parks, because the more people that we have going to those parks on a regular basis, a lot of the issues tend to clean themselves up. I mean, a lot of the homelessness, they don't want people playing golf next to their camp at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the morning. So the more traffic we generate into our parks, the cleaner and safer they become. And vice versa, though. The less traffic we have going into our parks, we kind of give those up to some of the more negative elements, and that's bad. If people are feeling unsafe to go into the parks, we have to absolutely change that perception.
Yes, yeah. It seems like you're fighting a lot with perceptions. This campaign.
Well, it's funny because I was actually sitting not too far from here talking to a business leader the other day, and he does a lot of recruiting for a large international, and whenever they put a posting up for Kamloops, no one would apply. But what he would do is he kind of figured the back way around it. He would say, "Oh, we need someone to come and fill in for 6 months while we hire a replacement." And every single time somebody came to Kamloops, for a 6-month stint, they ended up staying. They're the ones that took the job. So the perception outside of Kamloops tends to be maybe a little not as positive as it could be. But when people get here, I mean, they fall in love with the city. I mean, I tell my coworkers all the time that, from my front door, I've got the shoe swap 45 minutes one way, incredible houseboating, all the recreational activities out there. We've got Sun Peaks the other way, 45 minutes. I've got world-class mountain biking I can see from my front step. I mean, we've got every activity here within a very short distance that we got to take advantage of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Has there been I use the word perspective to put words in your mouth, but has there been a reoccurring theme that people have been chatting with you about this campaign trail?
The biggest one, especially when I talk to business owners and people, is the perceived resistance from City Hall, whether it's a personal conflict with somebody when they're trying to move something through, or the paperwork, the red tape. Over and over again I hear that, and actually one of my platform topics or items is to bring ahead I'd like to see an advocate system where if you want to move a business to Kamloops or improve or expand your business in Kamloops, you are basically assigned an advocate at City Hall, whether it's through Venture Kamloops or whatever, and they can walk you through all the processes so that you would have a single point of contact. So if you have a question for, say, the fire department, you can talk to your contact and they will get the answers for you. It could streamline moving the ins and outs through City Hall, because knowing who to talk to and get the answer from is 80% of the challenge usually in City Hall. So if you can make it easier for people to have a single point of contact to move forward, it's better. And it also builds that relationship. If you're from outside of Kamloops and you've got a positive relationship with your Bob down at City Hall, you're a lot more likely to stay and invest your money in Kamloops.
Yes, yeah. I was reading the newspaper the other day, and allegedly you were recovering from surgery. I don't know. With seeing the crutches in your foot, I don't know. Allegedly, you might have been recovering. What happened to you, out of curiosity?
Well, it's a longer term thing. I was in a head-on car crash about 4 years ago on the highway side of Kelowna. It was bad, and my ankles were pretty much crushed in the crash. And they went in and fused one of the ankles. You end up learning a lot about biomechanics when you're I've got that sort of injury. And they had to fuse one of the joints. The subtalar joint needed to be fused, and they needed to clean out another joint and remove some of the hardware they put in 4 years ago. So hopefully once it's all healed up, I'll be in better shape than I was before.
Is it a long road, or is it a shorter recovery time for what you're going through right now?
I'm supposed to stay off of my foot, no weight bearing, for about 3 months, so that'll be into January, and then the rehab and after that. So it's not short, but it's nice to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. Well, you only got 22 more days to kind of crush as much campaigning as you possibly can into it. What's next? Where can people see you, or what are you going to be doing to kind of get your face out there?
Well, I'm trying to hit up all the different forums, obviously. It's nice to get out there and people to do things like this, to talk one-on-one and get to know the candidates. It's not just a name on a lawn sign or on a project that you supported. It's the personal touches that make the biggest impact. I mean, I can't get out and visit all 90,000 people in Kamloops, but
90,000 people don't seem to vote either.
Well, that's absolutely true, which is unfortunate. The more people we get out voting, it's every single candidate's going to tell you the first thing I want you to do is vote. The second thing I want you to do is vote for me.
Yes.
So win or lose, if we have a good turnout, then the voters have spoken. So I've no issues with that.
Yeah, you mentioned back when Carolyn, like 2 Septembers ago, was on CBC talking about harm reduction and such. So Carolyn's has she been on the ballot multiple times now, or is it a new thing for her to kind of come on in?
We both ran in the by-election about a year ago, which was a really good learning experience. A little more what to expect and what to go forward. I'm actually a little surprised there's as few candidates running this time in the full election. There was 20-some candidates running for the by-election, and now we've got 21 running for the full election, and there's 8 seats up for grabs now and 2 seats a year ago. So I'm a little unsure about how that happened, but it takes a certain amount of nerve and a certain amount of thick skin to put yourself out there and bruise your ego from time to time, but that's the way it is, and it's not a bad thing. You'll learn, especially. I prefer to get in contact with people that have opposing opinions to mine. I mean, my opinion is pretty easy. If you agree with me, we're gonna have a pretty short conversation. Yeah. But when you get people that don't agree, and they're trying to convince you to come to their side, and you're trying to convince them to come to your side, the exchange of knowledge is it's fun. Yeah, absolutely. What sort of conversations have you been having with people where you're having those longer conversations? One recently, I was actually at a video it was called Whipped. It was just about how the provincial system and the party system the voting system in Victoria has been pretty much controlled by the parties, how you're not really allowed to vote with your conscience or with your constituents. And there was a debate or a discussion afterwards about proportional representation. So that was enlightening. There's some good points made on both sides. And one thing I'm not going to tell people to do is how to vote on PR. I really don't think it's city councilors' place to be trying to tell people how to vote on a provincial mandate. But just get educated. Look up information, and especially look up information from the opposing view. I find that's always the most interesting. If you can discuss something intelligent with someone that has an opposing view, and you're at the advantage of knowing what they're going to say before they say it, it makes the debate a lot more comfortable, and you can be a lot more sure in what you're saying. Yeah, proportional representation. I was on other sides than I am now, or I'm still figuring it out right now. And I agree with you that I didn't really think it was city council's place to slap their the 5 councillors' positions on a piece of paper and put it forward. Well, I don't think if they want to put their name on a piece of paper, that's fine. Do not say that you're representing the council or they're representing the city. Do not use letterhead of the city. Or even mention city anything, really. You could say you're a citizen of Kamloops and you support one side or the other. No problem with that. Going as a group to try and say that the city feels a certain way, I think, is overstepping what you've been elected to do. Yes, especially when only 22% came out in the by-election, right? So you're really only representing 22% of the actual total voting population. Yeah, that's unfortunate. We have a lot of voters that will go out. They'll be like one-topic voters. They'll like a candidate because of a particular stand on one particular topic, and those are the ones that tend to actually take over the process because they believe in, any whether it's the marijuana issue going on, the Ajax issue from a little while ago, a zoning issue that might affect them in their neighborhood. They'll go out and vote for that one person without really seeing what the rest of their platform is all about, and that can lead to some unbalanced conversations around the City Hall table. And I think the more views we have around the table and the more intelligent conversation they can have, the better off it is for everybody.
Yeah. Well, at least with the cannabis issue, like the city council actually does have some involvement in it, whereas Ajax, why are you sticking your nose into something that really does genuinely affect this city one way or another, but you have no say?
Well, it's collecting the information is fine, but spending hundreds of thousands of taxpayers' dollars on a report that is actually a rehash of existing reports, it seemed like a little bit of some of our money could be spent a little bit better.
Yes. Yeah. And I've heard that a few times now, and just trying to figure things out. And maybe I'll chat a little bit while maybe you take a bite of your breakfast sandwich. We both have open-faced sandwiches here at Leon John's, which are starting to go cold a little bit. Interesting enough, Dennis actually reached out to me about coming on the podcast, which then I started this little civic election sprint of sorts. Now I have to ask you, did you misunderstand me when I emailed all the civic counselors when I was working for someone else about podcasting, or were you actually chatting with someone about going on their podcast, or was that just like your way to start the conversation to maybe come with me on the podcast? Because the way you phrased it is like, hey, were we supposed to do a podcast?
Actually, no, and I still haven't figured out. I got a new phone about 2.5 weeks ago, and I was chatting with someone about going on their podcast. When they transferred the information, everything transferred except for my day timer and some of my conversations.
Interesting.
And so I was trying to go through and find who it was. I managed to find the location and the time on my old address book, but I couldn't find the contact information. So
I wonder who that is, because I want to know the other podcasters in town. I think I got like a general good handle on them, but interesting. Yeah.
I feel bad, and if you're out there, if you're listening to this, message me on Facebook again. Let's get together. I still want to do it.
It's a great medium, and for anyone listening, right, you can easily start your own podcast with your cell phone, and Anchor.fm is a cool little app that you can just start sharing your thoughts and feelings and put it out there, and they do the rest, right? A little bit of terms of services you might want to read, but...
People read those?
Yes, maybe. Not really. No.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's the nice thing with the new technologies and all of the... it's a double-edged sword with the new technologies and social media. You can go out and get your message out, but there's also a million other people going out there trying to get their message out. So you can sometimes you either hit really, really big and get those 10 million hits doing some karaoke version of some song, or your message doesn't get out as much as you'd like. But
yeah, I guess that tequila karaoke thing is the flavor of the week. Has there been a particular medium since you've been experimenting with all of them because of your campaign that had really hit home the most for Kamloops?
I'd say Facebook is the biggest one. There was a lot of people probably remember my boots from the previous by-election. I posted it was weird. It was like sitting at my desk one day at work, and there was my work boots were under my desk. So I just took a picture of them and posted it, and the caption I attached to the picture of my work boots was, "These give me a different point of view as anyone else on City Hall or City Council."
I remember that post.
Yeah, I got around 13,000 hits on that particular image, and it's a little overwhelming at that point. You think that you put your little things out there and you hope that people look at them, but 13,000 is a lot of people to see your, essentially your work boots underneath your desk. And so that was educational. I'm trying to get a little more involved with Instagram and Twitter. But some world leaders are making Twitter a little bit of a hit or miss item with some of their comments. So,
well, Twitter's a little bit. If Kamloops is using Twitter, they're mostly lurking and not actually involving in the conversations. I found out yesterday, actually, students at Westside Secondary have like a group Twitter account as led with one of the teachers asking Ken Christensen and William Turnbull some questions there, right? So it's really inspiring to see. Yes, they can't vote right now, but it's inspiring to see them actually get engaged in some respect with the civic election, because in my opinion, they really have the most to gain or lose in the long run, because, you know, they have the most of their life left.
Yeah, and that's the kids are a big thing. It's if they can mold policy going forward and into a city that they want to see, that's first of all, they need to see that they're getting engaged. They want to be taken seriously. And kudos to the both mayoral candidates for doing that, because a lot of times I don't think they get the respect they deserve. There's a lot of a lot of youth in this city doing a lot of good, whether it's charity work or a lot of different initiatives, through different, whether it's a church group or you name it. There's a lot of them out there. They're trying to get more engaged nowadays, and I think that the youth it's almost coming back to how it was in the 60s, where there was a lot of youth movements. We're getting a lot of youth movements now. A lot of it is internet-based. I mean, that's changed because the technology has changed. There'll be less sit-ins and love-ins and more online petitions. But as long as they feel they're getting their voice heard, I think that's super important.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that, the city council, however it works out to be, are more respective of these new mediums, right? We have the Let's Talk Kamloops platform coming on out, which had its bumps and grinds a little bit, I think. I saw someone whose, postal code was rejected. It's like, nope, that's a Kamloops-based postal code. But, to evolve is pretty important in this day and age. And, as a younger person looking at city council, yeah, they're the people you would expect, the who's who or whatever it be. Have you, in your conversations with the community, been finding that there's been a lot of people who are reignited into the civic politics, or is it kind of the same old people you would have expected in the by-election?
Well, the by-election being so close to the big election, there's a lot of the same faces. The unfortunate thing with a lot, and it speaks to the voter turnout too, a lot of people are disenfranchised with the system going out there. And I think that's what you're starting to see with the proportional representation vote. They may or may not entirely do their homework as to which system they want to go with, but they just feel that the system is broken and it needs to be changed. So that negative sentiment, I think, is driving what's behind a lot of the policy going forward, and that's unfortunate. I mean, can we improve things? Absolutely, but let's improve it with a lot of knowledge and a lot of thought before going forward, because these are important systems. I mean, we've had Kamloops, Canada, 125 years, been doing pretty good. So do we want to blow it up, or do we want to learn and maybe tweak things? And that'll be up for the people to decide.
Absolutely. What's something about you that hasn't really been shared that you wish you had the opportunity to kind of put out there, just because other formats are limited on time, space, and so on and so forth? What do you want people to know?
Well, something I learned through my accident and the crash. I mean, the health system in Canada and in Kamloops gets a lot of grief, but they do a lot of good work. And I didn't really realize how much that was based on the nurses. I mean, doctors are great. We keep talking about a doctor shortage in Kamloops, but man, when I was in the hospital, those nurses, I'd see my doctor, maybe an hour a week or 2 hours a week or what it is, but I'd see those nurses every single day. And so I think people need to get out and give a little bit of love to the nurses out there. It's a tough job. They're getting abuse quite often from both ends. I mean, I know there was days when I probably wasn't that pleasant to deal with. You're in a lot of pain and uncomfortable and fed up with the whole thing. But man, their support got me through a lot of tough days.
Yeah, my father's, he's on some heavier drugs, because something happened recently, and I warned him like, be careful. It's like, yep, I know. Were you on any drugs, the opioid sorts, when you had to recover? Or?
Oh yeah, they put me on a lot, and I got off of pretty much everything in the first 2 weeks, just because the side effects were too. I just didn't like them. I wanted to get off, and it wasn't a thought of I might get addicted. It was a thought of I do not like the way these things are making me feel, and I can put up with a little bit of pain in order to be myself again.
Yeah. Is it now? I asked you earlier if you were retired, and you said no. I wish. Are you still working in oil and gas now, or you said you were volunteering? What's your day-to-day kind of look like?
Well, right now with the surgery, I'm going to be off work for an extended period of time for recovery. So it's going to feel like a trial retirement, I guess. My day-to-day, my normal day-to-day before the surgery, I worked a week on, week off in northern Alberta for a large oil company. And the nice thing is that I've got to a seniority position where I've got enough vacation time that I actually wouldn't have to miss a single council meeting. I could adjust my schedule sufficiently to be able to commit to this. And the nice thing is that with the week on, week off, I can commit 100% of my time on the week off to deal with city matters. And that actually leads me to another proposal I would love to have with the city is it's been brought up a couple of times about being able to video conference in for city hall meetings. A lot of cities do it. And I think that's something we could drag Kamloops into the modern era, have live stream city hall meetings, be able to Skype in or whatever medium we decide to choose if you happen to be out of town. This will free up some time for some. I mean, we've got some councillors that have some pretty heavy-duty responsibilities. I mean, Arjun's now the president of the BC Union of Municipalities, so his time is going to be stretched a little bit, and I think if we could make it a little easier for him to be able to commit to the city hall meetings and other engagements, that would be helpful. And if we could live stream and even take questions online during a council meeting, if we devote, whether it's 10 minutes or 5 questions or something from online people, because to get to city hall meetings, on an afternoon on a Tuesday is a challenge for a lot of people. So I'd like to see open that up a little bit more, let people have another way to engage, whether they email, text in a question, tweet a question, and get an answer back, and see the response from everybody on council. Because a yes or no answer is one thing, but when you can see video of the mentality or the thought behind the decision that was made, it can there's more to it than just a yes or no answer, and that some thought was given to. You may not agree with the decision, but some thought was given to it, and if you could see it and interact, and that's the nice thing with the new technology that's out. It'll give us, I think, more accessibility to the leaders in our city. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. I was pretty vocal on a couple issues with city councilors, and as a proponent of new technology, as we record this on which really is quite an old technology. The podcasts have been around since the original iPod. They're just starting to get into the mainstream. I certainly would love to see Kamloops embrace, maybe not creating their own side app, but meeting people on the ground level in a medium that they already know how to speak and are familiar with.
Well, it's funny you mentioned the app, because that's one of the things I've mentioned in a few interviews, that we, whether it's snow removal, potholes, a way to interact with city on a more effective method. Now, we've got the My Kamloops app, which is, I think it can be greatly improved. I think we need to maybe tie in the My Kamloops app and the city with, whether it's a news agency or something, and have it you get your local weather, get your events coming up, and you can click on the side here and report a pothole, or just to open up that two-way conversation with more people. So there's definitely some technology improvements we can do to let more people feel they have a voice at City Hall.
Yeah, it's leveling people on a way that they feel leveled with, right? I call it's barriers to entry, right? Whenever you have extra hoops that people have to jump through, it's just not going to happen. Those contests where people on Facebook, why didn't my Facebook contest go as far as it should? Well, it's because you made it too complicated. Give people one action, and if that one action is just tune in live on Facebook, just tune in live on Facebook, which is a whole nother thing, because Facebook is evil, but that's still my personal opinion, and it's probably not going to change.
Well, that's the thing. Like, if you get some of these corporations that get so big, that's whether you agree or disagree with them, they pretty much own or a large percentage of social media runs through Facebook. Like them or not. There is. What's the second choice to Facebook where you can link up with your friends?
Instagram, which is owned by Facebook.
Exactly. So where are we going? How far down the list do we have to go to have something that's independent? It's unfortunate that with some of these pseudo monopolies have taken over. But hopefully, they're responsive to their shareholders too, and if they see a dip in profits or a dip in technology or a use, then maybe they can change.
Yeah, well, there's always the people who believe Zuck's trying to improve his self-image so that he can take a stab at the presidential role, but that's getting way too far away from Kamloops chat anyways. But how do you think we can support the smaller businesses in town? Like 85% of businesses in Canada are SMEs, small medium enterprises. How can Kamloops support them, given that we are a resource-based town? Your livelihood is based off of resources.
Well, shop local is the obvious solution, or one of the obvious solutions. The thing is, it's kind of a double-edged sword. The local business needs to attract the local people to keep the lights on, but they also have to embrace these technologies to reach out. We've got something like NRI out in Dallas, where they're a shipping company, and they ship all over North America, mostly in Canada, but all over North America. They've got offices down in California. They've got offices in out east. So the e-commerce that is the killer of the local small business can also be the savior of the local small business. And if we can get the message out, and maybe it's through one of the incubation centers we have in Kamloops, so we can help these people take the new technologies. I'm not as versed in a lot of the online marketing as my wife is. Completely immersed in online marketing and online businesses. It's her day job. But if we can help these companies, maybe we can give them an edge and have a cooperative that helps the online marketing, because online business, e-commerce isn't going away.
No.
It's the new thing. It's going to change the way we do things. That's why we see downtown Kamloops is more of a service-oriented and a boutique-y sort of environment, because that's what it needs to be to survive down there. We're not going to see a IKEA in downtown Kamloops because it wouldn't fit, and it doesn't fit the vibe down there. The savior to the small businesses might be also the thing that's threatening them the most, and that's e-commerce. Yeah,
it's that adapt or die kind of model.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, that is a reality. Unless you're able to create your own culture or community. I'm just gonna ramble on a little bit. Let Dennis get some fuel into him, as he's still got a sprint left to get to the finish line. See how he fares in the race. So I'm just gonna encourage everyone: read your newspaper, check out CBC, listen to Radio and Owl, watch the TV if you are someone who has television. Do what you have to do to learn a little bit about the civic election, and pester everyone to go out and vote. Even if they just show up and vote for one person, at least they've done something to contribute to the future of Kamloops.
Well, what you mentioned there is actually more powerful than I think you realized. The voting for one person, or voting just for the candidates you believe in, that is hugely important. You don't have to pick 8 people. If there's 4 people you like and you vote for them, their chances of getting in are even better, because if you pick a 5th or 6th or 8th candidate that you may not know too much about or aren't a fan of, and they beat out your candidate by 1 vote, you basically sealed their fate. So go out there, get educated, vote for the people you like, and then you can feel comfortable.
Yeah, I've definitely been guilty of feeling compelled to complete them all, and whether or not I can't remember exactly who it was or whatever be, but I ended up kind of swallowing my my decision and accepting, okay, we're gonna have to ride this out a little bit longer. But at least I went and made an effort, which I can't judge anyone if they didn't make an effort.
Yeah, well, that's a lot. What compelled me to run again here is I really try and hammer home with my kids that you can't complain unless you're willing to do something about it. And if you're willing to get out and vote and be engaged, and I can tell you right now, every single person that's running will welcome your text question, will welcome your email messenger question, will welcome any way that you ask them a respectful question, because they want to have that. And maybe you might be bringing a point to them that they haven't really given them a lot of attention to. I mean, there's issues, every part of the city's got different issues, and what I know, I live out in Dallas, so a lot of the issues out there will be completely different than the issues in Brock or downtown or Aberdeen. So if you ask them to maybe think about something they haven't thought about before, it's win-win.
Yeah, I didn't realize I had you drive so far out of your way. So
oh, no worries. I volunteer actually just up the street here in this morning. So
okay, are we running late at all?
No.
Oh, perfect, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, given that you live in Dallas and I live in Brock, they're very different neighborhoods. What are your opinions on the ward system that has been brought up every year by Dale Bass in the newspaper?
Generally speaking, I'd love to see the system. I think it'd need to be broken down into something like maybe 4, north, south, east, west ward, and then another 4 councillors at large of the highest vote getters that didn't win their particular ward, maybe something like that. Because as much as they say the city council, and they're almost to a man against the idea, they will say that, we try and represent the whole city. There are a lot of outlying neighborhoods that feel that they've been neglected. I could bring you a lineup of people that feel the sidewalks and roads in Barnhart Vale are dangerous, and I've been outside the school, RLC, and it is not good, and it's worse once the snow flies and the snowbanks are there. So, I mean, that's a specific part of the community that has a specific problem. If there was a councillor that was in that area, they would have specific representation. So, yeah, I'm in favor of the ward system.
Yes, yeah. Coming from Ontario, it just makes sense to me, right? I didn't realize they didn't have one until I started, reading up and going, oh yeah, that's something I grew up with. Why is that not here? Well, what's the topic that you want to chat about at this point? I'll just leave it open to you. We're around the almost 40 minute mark. What do we want to chat about? Kind of one last topic there, Dennis.
Well, I think something going forward that right now Kamloops is in a very good place. I mean, we're about, I believe, we're on the verge of one of the largest construction and expansion phases we're going to see in our history in the next little while. A lot of the projects coming up along the Trunk-Hill corridor, very exciting. Building and construction has been fairly strong in Kamloops for the last little while, and I think we're going to see a continuation of that with people migrating out of the lower mainland. And if Kamloops can position itself as the business-friendly, affordable city in BC, we need to take advantage of that, because we've done some of the steps in the past, and we've done the Tournament Capital Initiative, which got us great sporting facilities. We were on the leading edge of bringing in the high-speed fiber optic system that Interior Health, I believe it's Interior Health, uses for their data center, and the ability to use the high-volume internet is only going to get more important going forward. We've got that already. We've got the airport that can get us into downtown Vancouver in a short notice if that's what you need to do. We've got every advantage in the book, and we need to come up with a marketing plan and a plan in general going forward to help Kamloops grow to the point where, and I think it's going to grow, I know it's going to grow, to the point where we can really take advantage of these things and become a more self-sustaining city. Right now, I know there's a lot of people in the city that work outside of Kamloops, fly in, fly out, that sort of thing. And a lot of that money is being brought to the city because they want to live here. So if we can take advantage of, create some more jobs and some more opportunity in Kamloops, especially for the youth coming up, and TRU is a wonderful example of what's possible there, we could see a lot of prosperity in the city in the next little while. And I just wanted to say one thing about TRU. I actually talked to a couple of people there and some of the local and federal politicians. I'd like to see TRU take a more active role in the autonomous vehicle programs, because Kamloops being resource-based, we're going to start seeing a lot of the mining companies especially going to these autonomous trucks. In northern Alberta, there's a big push towards that, and they're about to lay off 500 drivers and replace that with 100 technicians.
And those drivers are very well paid.
Exactly. Those are six-figure jobs.
These trucks are like the size of 4 houses.
Yeah, they are, and it's and the nice thing is too with that kind of occupation.
Occupation.
Job, they, you can man or woman, doesn't matter. Anyone can do this job, and it's a very field leveling opportunity. But as those jobs disappear with technology changes, I think TRU's uniquely situated to have, with the engineering that's now on board and the trade side of it, it's got the right mix to maybe become the training center to maintain these trucks.
Well, they got the computer science degree now too, right?
Exactly.
So it's that coordination of all those departments.
And to maintain these autonomous trucks, there's going to be a programming aspect to it. There's going to be a hydraulics aspect to it. There's going to be an electrical aspect to it. So not a lot of universities have that mix, and I think we can really use that to our advantage and make Kamloops people always go high tech versus resource economy, and resources are high tech. And if we can meld the two of those and take advantage of that, it could be, again, another huge step forward for Kamloops.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, Sadie Hunter and I were chatting about how to bring tech into the resource sector, right? Because everyone likes to pit the two against each other, right? We can look at the success of Hummingbird drones.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right, they're using high tech to protect our forests from fires, which is protecting a whole huge driving economy, which unfortunately is highly subsidized, but that's another thing. Or then we can look at Lightship, which is creating hopefully a safer environment through their internet ecosystem, controlling all aspects of the oil and gas industry and all the different peripherals that that plug into their platform, right? So it's definitely an interesting place, and Kamloops is uniquely qualified. Or Streamline Enterprises, which is an offshoot of Aero Transportation, going back to NRI distribution, right? Like we're a distribution hub. Everything that comes from Vancouver that needs to get into Western Canada comes through this town.
Yeah,
and it's they work in conjunction with each other.
Yeah, they're not. I've never understood that. The competing tech versus resource. That's always confused me, because I go to my job and everyone I work with. I mean, computer monitors are everywhere. The technology that's involved, and Canada leads the world in a lot of these technologies as far as doing more with less to produce. Whether it's lumber or oil and gas or even farming. I mean. A gentleman I work with, he owns a farm, and all of his equipment is GPS controlled. I mean, high tech in farming soon, off the top of your head, would be polar opposites to each other. But no, they're marrying the two to do more with less, and that increases efficiency and reduces carbon footprints and is good for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. The people who are kind of on the Luddite side of things, right? They don't realize that whenever technology takes away jobs, it actually creates more jobs than it takes away. I'd have to pull up the stats on that, but you go back to the printing press, right? Yes, you don't have people writing stuff by hand anymore, but now they have to create the printing press, supply it with paper, keep it maintained. It actually increases jobs.
Well, and those jobs tend to get more specialized and more education required too. And a smarter population or a more educated population is, I think, more adaptable too. I mean, if a technology changes and you lose a little bit in one area, those people are smart enough and schooled enough, and you learn to learn. And if you've learned to learn enough, you can adapt relatively quickly into a new phase of your life. And
yes. Because the last thing we want to see is Kamloops turn into one of those boomer bust cities that we can see in the States that had everything into coal, right?
Well, and there's some of those in Alberta too, but you talk about the States. I did a project down there, and I did some time traveling on Route 66, which is, I'm not sure how good you are with your Disney movies, but it's the basis of Cars. And it was very sad, and it hit very close to home when you see these towns that got bypassed by the future, by the freeway system, and they just shriveled up and died. And
well, you can see that, kind of driving out when you're going to like the Thompson River to go kayaking, right? These, the highway that went straight to Vancouver, the old highway towns, right?
Yeah.
They closed up, shuttered, right? Like, you don't have to drive far to see it yourself.
No, that's true. Yeah, and it's. There's ways around that, and I think there's going to be a coming back to those small towns as the technologies move forward. More people can telecommute, things like that. There's a large percentage of people that want the quieter life, that want the no traffic in the morning, that stroll out in their front deck, drink their coffee, and log onto their computer to go to work. And if we can spread that out with technology, we'll be, I think, healthier for everybody.
Well, as long as you don't end up on Facebook. But
Oh.
well, Dennis, where can people find you if they want to learn more?
Well, you can, again, the Facebook monster is elect Dennis Giesbrecht for a city that works. Instagram and Twitter, look up my name, Dennis Giesbrecht, 2 N's, and Gies. People tend to get the E and the I turned around quite often. Look at those. You can reach out to me. You can email anytime or text me at 250-574-3536. More than happy to get down and talk to everybody. I love drinking coffee, so it's pretty easy to get me out of the house.
Awesome. Yeah, you're actually the first person to kind of give out their personal phone number, which I'm impressed with.
I can block people if they start to hassle me, so that's not a problem.
That's a beautiful thing about technology. Well, if I could ask one thing of everyone who's listening is get out and vote on the 20th or before. If the 20th doesn't work for your schedule, there is advanced polling. If I could ask a second thing is subscribe and share this podcast with anyone, and then bug them to get out and vote as well. Until next time, this is Nevin Webster here with the Cameo Podcast, and thank you once again, Dennis.
Thank you so much.